Spitfire, the most iconic British fighter ever built. And this one is about to soar into the skies, carrying a 95-year-old Second World War veteran. But he's not British, he's German. Today, Hugo Broch, one of the most successful World War II aces still alive, is going to do something that he's never done before. Fly a Spitfire.
How short a time it seems since these early fighting planes first hit the headlines of the world's press. Incidentally, these last war pictures have been preserved by the Imperial War Museum.
In the early part of the 20th century, a new kind of warfare began: aerial combat. World War I broke out just a decade after the creation of the very first powered airplanes. After World War I, Germany had been banned from having an air force. During the 1930s, Germany started amassing an aerial fighting arm in secret. With the start of World War II, Luftwaffe forces underwent a huge expansion.
Meanwhile, ominous events had been taking shape in Germany. The Luftwaffe had been created, and as the war clouds gathered, pictures of Hitler's mighty air force came in thick and fast, formidable by weight of numbers alone.
One of the many young men being trained to fly was Hugo Broch.
In meiner Freizeit habe ich mich mit der Fliegerei beschäftigt, als Junge schon, als Segelflug und später Motorflug. Die Piper. Meine ersten Schulflüge, Gleitflüge waren in Solingen, Ohligs, mit dem Schulgleiter SG-38. Der wurde selbst gebaut. War damals die Flieger und wir wurden dann praktisch vorgeschult.
After 2.5 years in training, Hugo was sent to the Eastern Front to fight the Soviets. His plane? The Messerschmitt 109. To find out more about this iconic aircraft, I met up with military aviation expert Paul Beaver.
So this is a really remarkable aeroplane. The first real mass production aeroplane. It produced throughout the war. I mean, the last aircraft rolled off the production line the day before the war ended. Probably built in more numbers than any other aircraft ever. Loved by short pilots, shall we say, because that cockpit in there is pretty much enclosed. It had some foibles. So the narrow track of the undercarriage meant it was quite difficult to land and take off. And young pilots found a real problem with it. So in the Battle of Britain, almost more of these were destroyed by landing accidents than by being shot down by Spitfires. So, you know, it's an interesting thing. I think it's a brilliant aeroplane because I love the fact that the Germans thought about putting cannon in it. You talk to any of the aces and they'll say you pointed the aeroplane with that cannon in the nose and you were going to hit the target. You know, so it didn't require reflector sights and all this stuff. You just flew it at the target. So as a combat aircraft, it's very much a fighter pilot's machine.
Hugo Broch agrees with that.
Ich war voll selbstbewusst und hatte das Vertrauen zu der Maschine, zu der deutschen Technik.
The ME 109 came in many different models, each one with a letter code. Hugo flew several of them.
Die F war ein feinfühliges Flugzeug, die reagierte auf bestimmte Steuerdrücke sehr sensibel. Ne? Man konnte die Messerschmitt also als weiblich mehr bezeichnen. Ne? Die Gustav war robuster als Mann. Ne? Man konnte die Kurven enger fliegen, also überlegen. Ob man dem Feind gegenüber überlegen war, das war eine andere Frage. Ja, 324 Feinflüge, also mit Feinberührung. Ne? Abschüsse 81 bestätigte und 5 unbestätigte Abschüsse. Jede Menge, es drehte sich schon rum. Ja, es war damals so, wir waren in den Krieg gestellt, entweder oder. Man kann ja nicht sagen, hier erschieß mich. Ne?
Why were you so successful?
Das kann ich nicht bestätigen, das können andere bestätigen. Also man spricht ja nicht von sich selbst. Man sagt in Deutschland, Eigenlob stinkt.
His combat record makes him one of the most successful air aces still alive today. Now more than 70 years on, Hugo is on his way to the historic Biggin Hill airfield, where he is once again going to take to the skies. But this time, in a Spitfire. But why is the Spitfire the most famous plane ever made?
It's really interesting, isn't it? It's iconic in every possible way. The noise, the music of the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, the shape of the aeroplane, the wings, this wonderful elliptical wing designed by this young Canadian called Beverly Shenston. The whole thing is it just looks right, it flies right, and when you're in it, and you know, I've been lucky enough to fly it, it just works. And I think the key to it is, of course, 1940. It's the publicity it was given. There was a Spitfire fund set up to buy Spitfires. There wasn't a Hurricane fund or a Mosquito fund or a Lancaster fund. It was the Spitfire fund. So every time a German was shot down, he was always shot down by the Spitfire. So you have all of this big PR machine behind it. But actually, because it is such a beautiful airplane.
And is it as good as people say? I mean, how important was it in winning that Battle of Britain in the summer of 1940?
I think there's no doubt that it was important in winning the Battle of Britain. Okay, 55% of the victories that were scored by Royal Air Force Fighter Command and the Anti-Aircraft Command were all by Hurricanes. If you like, the plodding old cart horse of the Royal Air Force. This little thoroughbred here, however, it did so much immense damage in psychological terms to the Germans, because they kept on being told there were no more Spitfires, and then another 2 or 3 squadrons would appear. So I think it was psychologically important as well as militarily important.
And the pilots love flying.
Every pilot loves flying, and if you talk to any wartime pilot who's flown this aircraft, he will tell you, you don't fly it, you strap it on and you're at one with it. It's a bird. I mean, you've heard the brilliant high flight poem, McGill's poem about, you know, touching the face of God and flitting around the clouds. That's what it's about. As well as, of course, we mustn't get away from the thought that this is actually designed as a killing machine. It's designed to shoot down bombers and fighters of the enemy.
In World War II, many planes fought for mastery of the skies. But it was the battle between the Spitfire and the Messerschmitt that really captured the public imagination.
And here are a few of the Nazi corpses at one of the many cemeteries provided for our aerial visitors. Many of the planes, of course, are proper wrecks, and the dumps are made up of Heinkels, Dorniers, Junkers and Messerschmitts. That's a yellow-nose Me-109, one of Goering's crack squadron. And another Me-109, evidently a crack pilot until he reached his 13th victory.
But now, Hugo Broch, a Messerschmitt pilot, is here at Biggin Hill, just south of London, to fly a Spitfire. And it's my chance to meet him. Hello, sir.
Hello.
How are you? Good to see you.
Hello.
Are you interested today to fly the Spitfire and compare it to its famous adversary, the 109?
Ja, würde mich freuen, also es ist prima, also ich akzeptiere das, also wunderbar.
What made you one of the best pilots in the Luftwaffe?
Ja, durch die Erfahrung an der Front, man muss ja gegeneinander fliegen. Und da gab es dafür entweder der Feind oder ich.
You shot down a plane on your first ever sortie. You must have had a natural ability.
Ja, richtig. Er wurde aberkannt, der erste Abschuss, weil ich abgeplatzt bin von der Rotte und habe die Maschine abgeschossen. Das war verboten.
When you were flying over the Eastern Front 75 years ago, did you ever imagine that in the 21st century you'd be over Biggin Hill, the home of RAF Fighter, well, one of the key bases of RAF Fighter Command, flying a Spitfire?
Nein, das hätte ich niemals gedacht. Wir sind froh, meine Frau und ich, dass wir hier sind, dass wir das genießen.
Well, good luck with the flight.
Juhu.
It's time for Hugo to don a flight suit for one more historic flight. Now today, Paul, something quite extraordinary is going to happen. We have got a German Luftwaffe Ace with an extraordinary number of successful air victories fighting over the Eastern Front against the Soviets. He's going to fly. Do we think a German ace has ever flown in one of these before?
Well, I can't remember a German ace ever flying in one.
You know everything, so if you can't think of it, then
well,
it hasn't happened.
The Germans had 4 captured ones during the war, which they flew as long as they could. So yeah, maybe they tested them. But in terms of, certainly in the post-war, to have somebody, and Hugo Broch is the highest scoring surviving ace anywhere in the world. Nobody else has got 81 kills. He claims it's 82. They didn't give him his first one because he broke formation, and therefore he was penalised by having 1 kill taken away. And that was on his very first flight. And he is the most amazing guy. He's still got blue fighter pilot eyes. He still has an eye for the girls, and he's one of those guys that you would go, if you saw him in the street, you'd go, do you know, I reckon that guy used to be a fighter pilot.
Well, it's so exciting. What we're here today to witness is something that is what possibly will never, ever, ever happen again, and it's a bit of history. It's a bit of history today. You know, there aren't that many people left around who fought in the Second World War. Hugo is one of a very few members of surviving members of the Luftwaffe with a Knight's Cross. So that's the Victoria Cross equivalent of the Luftwaffe. So this is a really special and important person, a really special, important day. The Spitfire is really important and special, and we're at Biggin Hill, the home of Battle of Britain Spitfire. This is the place where, if you talk Battle of Britain, you really are talking Biggin Hill. He looks about 40 years, he looks half his age.
Ah, good.
All that remains is for Hugo to meet the man who'll fly the Spitfire, former Royal Navy pilot Don Sigourney.
Do I speak German? No, I'm sorry.
How's Don? Yeah?
Don. D-O-N. As in duck. Okay. So we'll get airborne using just under half throttle.
Ja, ich gebe ja kein Gas.
No. Gibt Gas, ja?
Gut.
And we'll climb to 1,000 feet.
Get 1,000 Fuß hoch.
1,000 Fuß ist nicht hoch.
And then the power will come back more. You'll hear the engine slow down. And then we'll head out and we'll do some gentle maneuvering.
Weil ich finde bloß eine Sensation, dass der Deutsche hier in England mal mitfliegen darf.
He says it's just a privilege to be able to come over here.
Likewise. Likewise.
Ich habe bis 1960 Pilotenschein gehabt, aber auf der Piper.
He got his flying license in '36, flying a Piper.
Right, okay, yeah, mine in 1978. So a little bit later.
After
Cessna.
Cessna initially, yeah, and then Sea Harriers with the Navy. That was what I flew operationally.
Hands on the front. Beide Hände auf die Haube. Stand on the station. 2 Tablette. He says he knows. Oh ja.
Okay, Hugo. Good luck. This very Spitfire shot down a Messerschmitt 109 at Arnhem in 1944. Now it's carrying a Messerschmitt pilot. Well, we just strapped Hugo into the Spitfire, pulled the canopy shut, and he's off. And He's taxiing out onto the runway at Biggin Hill, and this couldn't be more dramatic. Biggin Hill was the home of the Spitfire during the Battle of Britain, and it played a key part in that decisive battle. And here he is, 75 years later, a German Messerschmitt pilot taking off from Biggin Hill in a Spitfire. It's just, well, it's extraordinary.
All good there, Hugo?
Alles okay.
All good, good. So it's going to turn the aircraft into wind, Hugo. Check the magnetos and the prop control. Controls are checked. Alles good, Hugo?
Ready.
North Sierra Bravo, squawking 7047, thank you very much.
Sierra Bravo with a right turn out at 1 mile, clear for takeoff runway 03, 1107.
Then take off on the right turn at 1, Sierra Bravo.
We can just over a slight rise here. Soon we'll hear that Merlin engine really roar into life, and we're going to see them take to the skies.
There's the power set, airborne, brakes go on, swap hands, undercarriage is coming up. There's the gear up.
There he goes, taking off there. Unmistakable sound.
Ultras at Mike Papa Bravo, Biggin approach, pass message.
All good, Hugo?
Alles okay. Good.
I've never been up in a Spitfire. I'm very jealous. But he deserves it a lot more than I do. Seeing that Spitfire pull away into the sky there, you realise that you're seeing something remarkable. You're seeing the iconic fighter of the Second World War, the Spitfire, the thing that won it for Britain in the Battle of Britain, being flown by a highly decorated German Luftwaffe Ace. It's time for Hugo to take the controls.
So when you're ready, if you'd like to fly the aeroplane, you have control. You have control. There we are, there's my hand. So come round to the left, please, Hugo. Turn left. Then round to the right, just lower the nose slightly. And then if you come left again, please. And roll out there. Okay. Roll straight. Okay. Roll straight. And just lower the nose slightly. Ease forward. Okay, Hugo, I have control. I have control, thank you. So we'll come round to the right. And if you like, we'll do that roll. Okay. Okay. So I'll lower the nose, let the speed build, then we'll raise the nose again and roll there. So pulling up. And rolling left now. All good? All good. Good. And then we'll start to head back to Biggin Hill. So the undercarriage is coming down, Hugo. Down and locked. Propeller's going back to fine pitch. You'll hear the engine RPM increase. All good there, Hugo?
Service QNH 1007.
Alles wunderbar. Good.
Ja, prima.
Wie war's? Wie war's? Wie war's, Hugo? Wie war's?
Wunderbar.
Wunderbar?
Ja, schön.
He's completely flat.
Also, das Spitfire ist eine gute Maschine, wunderbar, ein toller Pilot. Und ich habe jetzt nochmal wieder erfahren, was Fliegen heißt und wie schön das Fliegen ist.
Hugo, how was that?
Mir hat der Flug außerordentlich gefallen. Das waren Erinnerungen an alte Zeiten. Ich war ja auch ein Jahr als Lehrer tätig, als Teacher und habe das Fliegen angenehm empfunden, habe keine Probleme und habe mich auf den Piloten verlassen.
Well, I think you were a pretty good pilot as well, from what I heard.
Ja, den Eindruck habe ich auch.
Yeah, he has that impression too.
Okay, let's get you out and then we'll have a rest.
Oh, das geht. Ja.
Okay.
Ja, wunderbar. Thank you for
You're most welcome.
Wunderbar.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Ja.
Good flight.
Wunderbar.
Great privilege.
Alles
Thank
Gute,
you.
gute Zeit, good time.
Yes.
There's another pilot for Hugo to meet. Colin Bell, who flew Mosquito bombers in World War II. Well, if you're being very modest, listen, I've got someone I want you to meet.
Yes.
75 years since you flew against the Luftwaffe. I thought you might like to meet one of the Luftwaffe's leading aces.
Indeed, I would.
Here he is,
Yeah.
Hugo.
Yeah.
Hugo, this is Colin.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
So Colin, you flew against the Luftwaffe in the tail end of the Second World War.
That's correct. That's correct. I started operating fairly late in September 1944, and but the German anti-aircraft defences were lethal, and whether you were flying a Dakota or Flying Fortress or Mosquito bomber as I was, it was a very dangerous business.
And did you fear the Luftwaffe races like this man here, coming up against these ace fighters?
Not really. Because
Hugo, he says he wasn't scared of the Luftwaffe pilots.
Not really. Only the Me-262, the jet fighter, because the jet fighter could fly faster than we could. My Luftwaffe pilot friend here was, I understand, on the Eastern Front. Yeah. And so therefore, he was never really engaged in combat with me.
Lucky he never tried to shoot you down.
Very good, yeah.
That's good. Two pilots, once on opposing sides, now happy to share their memories. Those of us who've been here today have witnessed something very special. We've seen the most iconic fighter plane of all time being flown by its adversary from the Second World War, highly decorated German Luftwaffe Ace. Something that would have been unimaginable all those decades ago. And as those men, that generation, gets older and older, I think it's fair to say that, well, we'll never see anything like this again. How do you imagine yourself spending your 101st birthday? For most of us, it's likely to be a pretty quiet affair. But then most of us aren't World War II veteran Bernard Gardner. He celebrated 101 years on this earth by taking to the air in the world's only two-seater Hawker Hurricane, a plane he used to fly during the war, but hasn't flown in more than 80 years. The flight, which took place at Duxford Airfield, was organised by the Hawker Typhoon Preservation Group, an organisation dedicated to rebuilding and flying a Hawker Typhoon, a British single-seat fighter bomber. And it was the perfect way to celebrate Bernard's birthday and to thank him for the role he's played in helping the organisation fundraise. Chocks away.
Bernard, happy birthday, happy 101st birthday.
Yes.
I was going to get you a birthday card, but we arranged for you to fly in the Hurricane again.
I really appreciate having that. Not the same on the mantelpiece, but
no.
So,
and how was the flight?
Oh, really enjoyable. Really great to feel up there in a hurricane and do a stoop turn and run the clouds.
Yeah,
yes,
beautiful,
yes,
beautiful. And the last time you flew a Hurricane was in July 1944.
Yes.
That's a few years ago.
Quite a few years ago.
So
isn't it?
how was it coming back to the Hurricane now after all those years?
Yes, I really enjoyed it. I felt quite at home.
The Hawker Typhoon Preservation Group has been running for 7 years as a small all-volunteer charity, and their aim is to raise the funds required to return an original Hawker Typhoon to the skies. The group has the significant remains of RB396, a genuine combat veteran example of a Hawker Typhoon which was shot down behind enemy lines on the 1st of April 1945. They want to rebuild the plane and get it in flight as a living, breathing memorial to the servicemen and the pilots who gave their lives during the Second World War. We caught up with the project director, Sam Worthington-Leese, to find out a bit more about the restoration and fundraising work his team have been doing to bring the aircraft back to life.
My name's Sam Worthington-Leese. I am the project director and a trustee with the Hawker Typhoon Preservation Group. So we've been planning this showcase event for the 1st of April, which is the date that our aircraft, RB396, was shot down in 1945. And the idea is to showcase the project to interested guests, companies, media, who might have an interest in supporting us and spread the word really about what we're doing, which is to try to rebuild a Hawker Typhoon and get it flying again.
The Hawker Typhoon was first introduced on the 11th of September 1941, and it became instrumental in ground attack missions during World War II.
It was designed as an interceptor fighter to replace the Hurricane and even the Spitfire. It didn't perform particularly well in that role, and so it was morphed into a ground attack role, and it became the RAF's first dedicated ground attack aircraft of the war. Some historians have credited the Hawker Typhoon with shortening the war and saving countless thousands of lives in the process. Allied generals and even German generals at the time credited the Typhoon with allowing the Allies to break out of Normandy and ultimately win the Battle of Normandy after the D-Day invasions. The work was really, really dangerous. So dangerous that 56% of pilots that flew the aircraft were killed. That doesn't include those that were shot down, captured, becoming prisoners, those that were wounded, sometimes really seriously. And research suggests that that number is 666 pilots. And they were killed flying the Typhoon. And there's no memorial to them anywhere. And we feel they deserve one. And we want the memorial to take the shape of an aeroplane, like a living, breathing, working and flying Hawker Typhoon, so that when it flies, and it will, it's just a case of time and money, but when it flies, it will fly in all of their memory. We've all got our own personal connections to it. My grandfather flew Typhoons during the war. He got shot down, force landed, ended up as a prisoner of war in Stalag Luft 3. I've got parts of the aircraft he was flying on that day, and we're hoping to incorporate them into this rebuild. And so it's really important to me personally, but on a sort of wider level, it's that memorial that we feel these guys and some girls are missing and that they really, really deserve. We've got Bernard here today. He's 101 years old in 5 days' time. He flew the Typhoon during the war. He did 71 combat operations. And all he really says about it, you have to really tease the stories out of him, but he says, I didn't really do anything, I was just doing my job. And then you dig a bit deeper, and then he'll start telling you about the flak and how heavy light flak is. And the fact that one day he was flying along and his wingman just suddenly exploded. And all these stories, and you think, that's not just doing your job, Bernard, that's more than that. So there's not many of them left with first-hand experience of what that was like. So I think it's important for us, everyone, at the very least, to just remember what they did. But if you don't create some way of facilitating that memory, then it's going to disappear. As they all pass on, which unfortunately they will, if there's no direct link and then nothing physical to remember it, no records kept, it will just disappear. And all their sacrifices then will be in vain, and that's just not right. You flew the Spitfire before,
yes,
a couple of years ago, because you didn't fly that during the war, and you weren't able to loop the Spitfire, but today you looped the Hurricane.
Yes. Goes round so beautifully. So, yes.
And did it bring back memories for you?
Oh yes. Yes.
Good ones?
Oh, good ones.
Good.
Yes. Because I enjoyed flying the aeroplane, it changed my career in the Air Force, because I was detailed to go out and practice forced landings in the Tiger. And but that was no fun for me, so I went and read up in the RAF manuals flying how to do loops, and so I quite practiced in doing loops all on my own. And then comes a time when I was due to start doing aerobatics officially with an instructor, and he did a loop with me following through on the controls, and he said, right, now you do a loop. So I did a loop and did the perfect loop where you hit the slipstream you made on the way up, on the way back down again. And he said, do that again. So I did it again and hit the sleeping. He said, you're for fighters.
And after the Hurricane, Bernard, you went on to fly the Typhoon. Operationally, 71 combat operations in the Typhoon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We've spoken about that before, and it's absolutely fascinating. What does it mean to you to know that we are returning a Hawker Typhoon to the air? Because there aren't none. Yeah, are you looking forward to it? How does it make you feel to know that?
Yeah, I would love to see it. I'd love to fly it, but I don't think they'll let me do that.
We can have a word. We can have a word.
Well, but it would be really great to see and hear a Typhoon flying again.
One of the things that was so unique about the Hawker Typhoon was the sound of its engine. The noise produced by the plane was incredibly different to that of other aircrafts at the time. This was because the Typhoon had an H-24-cylinder Napier Sabre engine, where most planes had Griffin or Merlin engines, which were nothing like as powerful as the Sabre.
Inside you can't hear, it's just white noise. But outside I think it'll be very different. Everybody's used to the V12 of the Merlin and then the slightly more growly V12 of the Griffin, but this is an H-24, a much higher revving. Those that have memories of it say it's a more high-pitched sound, so really sort of interested to see that or hear that. Let's see what that sounds like. What would you say to anyone thinking of supporting our efforts to rebuild a Typhoon and perhaps considering making a donation? Would you urge them to do that?
Oh yes, I would urge them to do that, because it's really worthwhile project, and it really is worth making a donation, a nice large one, to get the airplane flying again. Brilliant.
And thank you very much, Bernard. Thank you for being here today, this weekend.
Really has been my pleasure. And thanks.
Honestly, no, it has been ours. So thank you for coming, and a safe journey home. And we'll see you next time. We'll start planning your 102nd birthday right away.
Yes, we will indeed.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A truly unforgettable day, filled with history, honour, and the power of human spirit. The Hawker Typhoon Preservation Group's work goes beyond restoring and flying these magnificent machines. They are also custodians of history, preserving the memories of those who fought for our freedom. We owe it to the brave heroes like Bernard to keep their stories alive and honour the legacy that they've left behind. If you'd like to support the restoration project, please follow the link in our description. Thanks for watching this video on the History Hit YouTube channel. You can subscribe right here to make sure you don't miss any of our great films that are coming out. Or if you are a true history fan, check out our special dedicated history channel, historyhit.tv. You're going to love it.